The emergence. The signal arrived during a routine scan of dead Sector 17, a region of space considered uninhabitable for centuries. Lieutenant Marcus Chen stared at his console aboard the Galactic patrol vessel Harbinger, running the analysis a third time to confirm what seemed impossible. The quantum-encrypted transmission carried a distinctly human signature, but it originated from Nexus Prime, a failed colony world presumed dead for over 300 years. "Commander Reyes," he called, his voice barely steady. "You need to see this." Commander Elena Reyes moved with practiced efficiency across the bridge, her cybernetically enhanced eyes already calculating possibilities before she reached Chen's station. At 43, she had spent most of her life patrolling the outer territories for the Galactic Council, and nothing surprised her anymore, or so she thought. "Impossible," she whispered, studying the signal pattern. Nexus Prime was a death sentence. No one survived. The historical records were clear. Nexus Prime had been humanity's most ambitious colonization failure. 20,000 settlers dispatched to a promising planetary system but turned hostile upon arrival. Intense radiation from its unstable star, toxic atmosphere, and aggressive microbial life had given the colonists a projected survival time of 18 months maximum. After losing contact, recovery missions found only abandoned settlements and confirmed the colony's extinction. The system was classified as uninhabitable and forgotten. Yet the signal persisted, growing stronger with each passing moment. "It's not just a distress beacon," Chen reported, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "It's a directed message. They're broadcasting system-wide navigation parameters and invitation protocols." Commander Reyes activated the ship's quantum secure channel. "Central Command, this is Harbinger. We have an anomalous situation requiring immediate attention." Within hours, the Harbinger was joined by the research vessel Prometheus and 3 additional battle cruisers. The small fleet approached Nexus Prime with extreme caution, weapons systems primed despite the seemingly peaceful invitation. "Radiation levels should be lethal," said Dr. Naomi Katri, the xenobiologist sent from Central Command. She frowned at her readings, but they're within tolerable parameters. Something's shielding the entire system. As they entered the outer reaches of the Nexus system, the true scope of the impossible revealed itself. Orbital structures surrounded each planetary body, not the crude habitats of desperate survivors, but elegant, flowing architectures that seemed to pulse with internal energy. The supposedly uninhabitable planets showed signs of atmospheric reconfiguration and surface development that would require centuries of advanced terraforming. "They didn't just survive," Reyes murmured. "They thrived." The communications array activated without their input, projecting a holographic figure onto the bridge. The figure appeared human but moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost too perfect. Its skin held a subtle iridescence, and beneath the surface, faint patterns of light traced what might have been circuitry or modified vascular systems. "Welcome, distant cousins," the figure spoke, its voice harmonious and multilayered. "I am Director Elias Wright, 7th generation of Nexus Prime. We have been expecting you." The revelation staggered the crew. Not just survivors, but generations born on a world that should have killed their ancestors within months. "How?" Reyes managed to ask. "The conditions were challenging," Wright finished with a slight smile. "Necessity breeds adaptation, Commander. When conventional solutions fail, unconventional ones become the only path forward." The hologram expanded, showing footage of the colony's evolution. The story it told defied everything humanity thought it knew about survival limits. The first generation had suffered terribly, losing nearly half their population before making their first breakthrough: symbiotic integration with modified native microorganisms. By merging human DNA with the radiation-resistant microbes, they created a biological shield against the planet's lethal environment. "It was only the beginning," Wright explained. "Each generation advanced further. We don't just inhabit this system, we have become part of it." The images showed humans with increasingly obvious modifications, neural interfaces, enhanced musculature, skin that could photosynthesize the radiation that had once threatened to kill them. Their technology had evolved along similar lines, blurring the boundaries between biological and mechanical systems. Our ancestors were abandoned. Wright continued, a hint of accusation in his tone. Left to die on a hostile world. We transformed instead. And now we've reached a point where we felt it appropriate to reestablish contact. The strategic implications weren't lost on Commander Reyes, a human colony with 300 years of isolated evolution and technology development, apparently controlling an entire star system. The Galactic Council would view them as either an unprecedented asset or a potential threat. The Council will want to reintegrate you into human society, she said carefully. Wright's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his stance. We are not seeking reintegration, Commander. We are announcing our sovereignty. The Nexus system belongs to its people, all 7 planets, their moons, and the star itself. Admiral Takashi arrived within the week aboard the Galactic Council flagship Resolute, accompanied by 12 additional warships. The show of force was deliberate, but if it intimidated the Nexus colonists, they showed no sign. They've transformed an entire star system, reported Dr. Catry during the initial briefing. Their technological capabilities exceed our own in several key areas, particularly in biotechnology and environmental engineering. They've actually stabilized their star's radiation output through a network of energy collectors that harness and redistribute plasma flows. And their defenses? Admiral Takashi asked. Commander Reyes hesitated. Unknown, sir. They've allowed us to scan their habitats and vessels, but certain areas remain opaque to our sensors. They appear to have energy manipulation capabilities we don't fully understand. The Admiral's expression hardened. The Council cannot allow an independent human faction to control an entire star system without oversight. It creates a dangerous precedent. The diplomatic meeting took place in a floating structure midway between the fleet and Nexus Prime. Director Wright arrived with 3 other representatives, each displaying varying degrees of the evolutionary changes that had transformed their people. We understand the Council's concerns, Wright stated after hearing the Admiral's position. But we've developed independently for 3 centuries. Our biology, technology, and society have all evolved beyond what you would recognize as standard human parameters. We're claiming what we've built through generations of sacrifice and innovation. The Council recognizes your achievements. Admiral Takashi responded, but all human colonies operate under central governance. Your isolation doesn't exempt you from these protocols. Wright's eyes, slightly larger than standard human proportions and reflecting an inner luminescence, regarded the Admiral with something approaching pity. Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify our position, he said quietly. Before anyone could respond, the lights throughout the diplomatic station pulsed once. On every ship in the Galactic Fleet, systems momentarily faltered before restoring themselves. We just neutralized your weapon systems and defensive shields, said another Nexus representative, a woman whose name had been given as Serena Voss. Temporarily, of course. They will restore to full functionality in exactly 60 seconds. The Admiral's face darkened with anger, but Wright continued before he could speak. We don't desire conflict. We want peaceful relations, open trade, cultural exchange, but as equals, not subordinates. The Nexus system is our home, transformed by our blood and ingenuity from a death trap into a thriving civilization. We will defend it if necessary. As promised, the fleet's systems returned to normal exactly 1 minute later. The message had been delivered with precision. The colonists weren't just claiming independence, they had the means to enforce it. Commander Reyes watched the Admiral's face as realization set in. A new power had emerged among the stars, born from humanity's cast-offs, forged in the crucible of survival against impossible odds. The galaxy's balance had shifted, and nothing would be the same again. The Ascension. The Galactic Council chamber on Earth, hummed with tense voices as Admiral Takashi's report concluded. Three-dimensional projections of Nexus Prime's transformed landscape and its inhabitants hovered above the central table, drawing gasps and murmurs from the assembled representatives of humanity's interstellar territories. They neutralized our entire fleet's defensive capabilities without firing a single shot, the Admiral emphasized. Their control over the electromagnetic spectrum appears to be absolute within their system. High Counselor Diane Zhou, the most senior human representative in galactic affairs, studied the images with sharp focus. At 73, she had navigated humanity through conflicts with 3 separate alien civilizations and brokered the treaties that formed the current interspecies alliance. Her cybernetic enhancements were minimal compared to newer generations, just memory augmentation and vision correction, reflecting her traditionalist approach. And their biological modifications, she asked. Dr. Khatri stepped forward, visibly uncomfortable under the Council's collective gaze. Extensive, Madam Counselor. Preliminary analysis suggests they've adapted to their environment through controlled evolution, integrating beneficial genetic traits from Nexus Prime's indigenous microorganisms. They've essentially speed-run evolution, directing it intentionally rather than waiting for natural selection. Are they still human? The question came from Counselor Emerson, representing the conservative Earth territories. Dr. Khatri hesitated. Biologically, they share our ancestry and remain genetically compatible, though significantly modified. Philosophically, that's beyond my scientific expertise. Commander Elena Reyes, invited to provide tactical assessment, recognized the underlying fear in the Council's questions. Humanity had encountered 4 alien species since achieving interstellar travel. 2 had become allies, 1 remained neutral, and 1, the Vrex Collective, maintained hostile relations despite the armistice signed 50 years earlier. The collective representatives were present in the chamber now, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under the lights as they observed the proceedings with compound eyes that revealed nothing of their thoughts. "We have another concern," said Zhou, glancing toward the alien delegations. "The Vrex Collective has expressed alarm over the Nexus colony's technological capabilities, particularly their apparent ability to manipulate stellar energy." The Vrex ambassador, designated Speaker for Many, moved forward with the clicking sound that accompanied their species' motion. The collective considers star manipulation technology a Class 1 security risk. The translator rendered its complex vocalizations. "Our treaty specifically prohibits such development without mutual oversight." Commander Reyes knew what wasn't being said. The Vrex had maintained technological superiority over humans for decades, a fact that had influenced the terms of their uneasy peace. The emergence of a human colony with capabilities that potentially exceeded Vrex technology threatened the very foundation of that arrangement. "The Nexus colony isn't bound by treaties they never signed," she pointed out. "They've developed in isolation, outside our legal frameworks." The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments, some supporting containment measures against the colony, others advocating for diplomatic recognition. Through it all, the Vrex delegation remained unnervingly still. 2 days later, the decision came. Against Commander Reyes's recommendation, the Council authorized a security action against Nexus Prime, a euphemism for military intervention designed to bring the colony under control. "This is a mistake," Reyes told Zhou privately. "They allowed us to leave peacefully last time. They were sending a message, showing restraint. If we return with aggression, they may not be so merciful. The alternative is to accept a human splinter civilization with unknown motivations and superior technology," Zhou replied. "The Council cannot accept such a risk, especially with the Vrex pressuring for action." The task force assembled was the largest military operation since the Vrex conflict. 30 battleships, supported by dozens of specialized craft carrying the latest weapon systems humanity had developed. Commander Reyes was reassigned to a support role aboard the command vessel, her objections noted and overruled. As the fleet approached Nexus space, they detected no defensive preparations, No signs of alarm from the colony. The lack of response unsettled the command staff more than any show of force would have. "They're monitoring us," Rise insisted during the final briefing. "Their sensor technology clearly exceeds ours. They know we're coming." The fleet entered the outer boundary of the system in attack formation, weapons charged and targeting systems active. For several minutes, nothing happened. Some officers began to relax, suggesting the colonists had reconsidered their position. Then Director Wright's voice echoed through every ship simultaneously, bypassing communication protocols and security filters as if they didn't exist. "We regret your decision to return with hostile intent," he said, his tone conveying genuine disappointment rather than anger. "We hoped for understanding, but prepared for this outcome." What happened next defied comprehension. Throughout the system, the space between planets seemed to ripple, as though reality itself was being gently reshaped. Every ship in the fleet suddenly found itself encompassed by a field of energy that wasn't registered by any known sensor. "Weapons systems offline," reported tactical officers across the fleet. "Engines unresponsive. We're holding position." On the command ship's main screen, Director Wright appeared, flanked by a diverse group of Nexus colonists. Some appeared nearly baseline human, while others displayed more extensive adaptations. Behind them stretched a vista of architectural marvels integrated seamlessly with a landscape that pulsed with life despite the hostile environment it had evolved from. "Your vessels are currently contained within localized fields that neutralize energy weapons and propulsion systems," Wright explained. "Your life support remains functional, and you're in no danger as long as you don't attempt to breach the fields." Admiral Takashi, face flushed with rage and humiliation, demanded release. In due time, Wright assured him. "First, we need to establish understanding. What you're witnessing isn't simply advanced technology. It's the product of our fundamental approach to existence. We don't conquer our environment. We integrate with it. We don't force technology to serve us. We evolve alongside it." The view shifted, showing massive orbital structures that channeled the star's radiation, not just shielding the planets but harvesting the energy and redistributing it throughout the system. Other displays revealed colonists interacting with technology in ways that suggested neural interfacing far beyond what mainstream humanity had achieved. 300 years ago, our ancestors faced extinction on a hostile world, continued another colonist, an older woman with silvery patterns flowing beneath her skin. "We survived by accepting a simple truth. Adaptation is stronger than resistance. We didn't fight this system. We joined with it, became part of it. The radiation that should have killed us now powers our civilization. The microbes that caused disease in our ancestors now form a symbiotic relationship with our bodies." Commander Rise watched the faces of the officers around her as understanding dawned. This wasn't just a technological advantage. It was an entirely different paradigm of human development. "We don't want war," Wright said. "We want recognition. We're offering humanity an alternative path, not to replace your civilization, but to expand the possibilities of what humans can become." One by one, the ship's systems were restored, but the message had been delivered with unmistakable clarity. The Nexus colony couldn't be conquered by conventional means, and attempting to do so would only result in further demonstrations of their capabilities. When the fleet returned to Earth, the Council faced reality. New diplomatic channels were established, with Commander Rice, who had advocated understanding from the beginning, appointed as the primary liaison. The Vrex Collective, confronted with evidence of human potential they hadn't calculated, reassessed their strategic position. For the first time since contact, they approached negotiations without the implicit threat their technological superiority had always provided. As Rice prepared for her return to Nexus Prime as an ambassador rather than a military commander, she reflected on the irony of the situation. A colony sent to die had instead flourished beyond all expectations, ultimately returning to reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. The Lost had become the leaders, showing a path forward that combined biological adaptation with technological innovation in ways that mainstream human development had never considered. They adapted to survive, she wrote in her personal log. Now we must adapt to their existence, and perhaps learn from what they've become. The forgotten colony had returned, bringing with them not just control of a star system, but a fundamental challenge to humanity's understanding of its own potential. The galaxy would never be the same.